Hello and welcome to hole number 5. It's the first par 5, the second longest hole in the golf course. This par 5 hole is a stroke index of 2, but just because it's a long hole doesn't mean it needs to be difficult. The longest journey in life is achievable if you have a plan, some patience, and break it down into small chunks. In golf, and especially links golf, patience is a real key to scoring well and enjoying your golf. The line off this tee is left of centre of the fairway. The humps and mounds in this fairway kick the ball towards the right side and towards the fairway bunkers, lurking in the long grass like a pride of lions waiting for a sickly antelope. This set of bunkers has long been called the Seven Sisters. Although in the world we live in today, I guess you'd have to call them the 7 self-identifying siblings. As I said, patience and discipline and an element of self-control are the keys to scoring well and having an enjoyable round in the links. I remember caddying for this guy named Joe, who had a bit of a short fuse and a temper about him. He had a good drive in this hole, but had a little bit of slice spin on it, bounced off one of the fairway mounds and kicked into this little pot bunker here. "How the hell did that get in there?" Joe shouted furiously. "I guess it just had one bad bounce too many," I replied, while handing him his sand iron. Now, one of the good things about golf is certain clubs have specific jobs to do, and for really stupid people, even is stated directly on the bottom of the club. A driver's for driving, a putter is for putting, and of course, a sand iron is for bunker shots. So I handed Joe his sand iron. "I don't want that club. Give me my 6 iron. I've got this shot," he said. 3 swipes later, the ball was still in the bunker and had probably moved less than a foot. Joe furiously threw his 6 iron out of the bunker and into the heavy rough. I handed him his sand iron and he played it out sideways and back onto the fairway. Still furious, Joe hurled his sand iron in the same direction as his 6 iron. The round continued more uneventfully, and Joe eventually managed to calm down somewhat. We got to the 11th tee. "How far we got?" barked Joe. 163 yards and no wind for once. "Give me my 6 iron, he said. "We don't have a 6 iron anymore," I replied. "Best take a 5. "Where's my 6? he roared. "Back where you threw it," was my reply. Furiously, he took his 5 iron and pulled it slightly into hill bunker on the left side of the green. And so we got up to the bunker and he said to me, "Give me my sand iron." "We don't have that one either," I replied. "Where the hell is it?" he shouted. "Back where you threw it, snuggling up in the rough with your 6 iron, probably making little baby jiggers." Now, Joe, if you want someone to help you on the golf course, get a caddy. If you want someone to fetch sticks that you keep throwing around, then you'd be better off getting yourself a dog, I told him. Now, throwing clubs around in temper is ridiculous and childish, but a lot more common than you might imagine on the golf course. If you want to know more about golf club throwing and how to do it properly, then there's a book called Extraordinary Golf by Fred Shoemaker. Fred had built his whole teaching philosophy on the release and around the proper release mechanics in the golf swing. And the way he achieves this is by getting his students to throw clubs during their swing down the fairway. It's a unique and intuitive and somewhat left field way to teach the golf swing, but it can bring about surprisingly successful results. So, who would you like to teach you how to throw the golf club? Would it be Joe or would it be Fred? Now, as we get further down the fairway, you come to the famous spectacle bunkers, 70 yards short of the green. The more famous spectacle bunkers are around the 14th hole at Carnoustie. But these were the old Tom's original spectacles. It was here back in the 1933 Open Championship that Craig Wood, the long-hitting American, had the unfortunate and untimely visit. Craig was in contention in the final round of the Open Championship and hit a long and powerful drive on the 5th, and was somewhat remarkably assisted by the hard ground, dry conditions and the wind. His ball came to end up, after what seemed like an age, in this little bunker here, a remarkable distance of 410 yards from the tee. Taking into account the equipment and technology of the time, that certainly was an extraordinary achievement. Craig tried to get out of the bunker and onto the green, but failed to clear the large lip and left the ball in the bunker. He then played out backwards and pitched his 4th shot onto the green and 2-putted for a bogey. He eventually ended up in a tie for the tournament and lost the championship in a 36-hole playoff. So what lessons can spectacle bunkers teach us? Craig's best drive ever ended up in trouble. It should have been out of his reach. It shouldn't have been even possible for him to get here, and he didn't have to take it into consideration. And I guess the only golf lesson and life lesson that spectacle bunkers can teach us is that of acceptance. In life before caddying, one of my jobs was that of union representative, and during that time I witnessed injustice and discrimination on a regular basis. I practice mindfulness daily, but even to this day I personally have some difficulty with acceptance. One of my favourite stories about acceptance is the tale of the 2 arrows. Buddha asked his student, if a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful? It is, replies his student. If a person is struck by a 2nd arrow, is it even more painful? Asks Buddha. It is, replies his student. Then the Buddha explains, in life we cannot always control the 1st arrow. However, the 2nd arrow is a reaction to the 1st arrow. And with the 2nd arrow comes the responsibility of choice. In golf and in life, there will always be bad breaks and unfortunate bounces. We can stomp our feet, we can shout and scream about how unfair the world is and how unjust people can be. Or we can do as the song says, just pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off and start. As we finish the hole and get to the green, we come to what is the largest putting surface in the world. Front to back is 98 yards and the area is 1.25 acres. I remember Peter Alice, the BBC commentator, saying during the Open Championship that it took the greenkeeper a 7-mile walk in order to cut this green. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it was one of Peter's many good lines during his remarkable commentating and golfing career. Now, one thing I often get in this green, when the golfers have a long putt, they'll turn to me and say, hey Colin, how hard do I hit a 60-yard putt? The answer is always the same. A little harder than a 50-yard putt, but not quite as hard as a 70-yard putt. So as we come to the end of the 5th hole, I'd like to thank you again for watching this episode of Your Golfing Mentality. Like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode. And if you want to know just how hard to hit something, just remember and ask your mind and body. After all, it's been stopping you from falling flat in your face for years. Thank you for watching.